welcome everyone and thank you for being here today for our regular board meeting on Thursday, February 28th, 2019. I'd like to acknowledge that we are within the territory of the Sechelt First Nation, and we thank them for allowing us to meet here today. We have an amended agenda, and so everyone make sure you have the amended agenda in front of you. May I have a motion to approve or to adopt the agenda, please? So moved and seconded. Any other additions or changes to the agenda as presented? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes. Regular board meeting minutes of February 21st, 2019 on pages 1 to 27 of your packet. Oh. So you'd like to, okay, I'll entertain that. Director McMahon?
I apologize, sorry. I was shuffling papers. I'd like to propose 2 items of new business. One is drought management plan, and the other is Block 1313 update.
Okay, so Director McMahon would like to move an amendment to our agenda. May I have a seconder for that, please? And these would be going under
New business,
drought management plan, and DL 1313. So I've moved and seconded. Any comments or any other additions? I'll pause for an extra second just to make sure everybody's shuffled through their papers. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of those amendments to the agenda, please? Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we'll have those under new business. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so number 2 on our agenda are the regular board meeting minutes of February 21st, 2019. May I have a motion to adopt? So moved, seconded. Are there any errors, omissions, additions, changes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. No business arising from minutes and unfinished business. So is there, or anybody? Seeing none. We have no presentations and delegations. So we'll move on to our reports. We're going to receive all of the reports all at once, and then we'll go through each item and see if there's anything to pull out. And so may I have a motion to receive all the reports? So moved, seconded. All those in favor? Motion carries. So going on to the Special Infrastructure Service Committee recommendations number 1 to 7 of February 20th, 2019. Before we move the block as a whole, would any of the directors like to pull out any one of those recommendations? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to, if I can have a mover for those recommendations, please. So moved, seconded. Any other questions or comments on these recommendations? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4, Infrastructure Service Committee recommendations number 1 to 11 of February 21st, 2019. Before we move those, would anybody like to pull out any one of those recommendations to discuss separately? Seeing none, may I ask for a motion to approve the block? So moved, second. Any other comments or questions? Anything? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 4A on our agenda are the Corporate and Administrative Service Committee recommendations numbers 2, 4, 5, and 6 of our meeting that we had earlier today. Would any of the directors like to pull out any of those recommendations prior to moving them as a whole? Okay. Moved as presented and seconded? Seconded. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And the parcel tax review panel minutes, February 21st, 2019, we have those there for receipt already, which we received with the rest of the report. So I'll just entertain if any of the directors have any questions or comments on that. I will say Director Lee was an excellent chair. Thank you so much. And it was like the shortest, 6 minutes, maybe 5.5 minutes. So he's going to try and be more efficient for next time. Okay, and then moving on to item number 6 on our agenda is our Chief Administrative Officer's report. So I'll move it over to CAO Levies, please.
Thank you, Chair Pratt. So this is my monthly report, and it's here for information, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Okay, directors, any questions for our CAO on her report to the board? Wow, you're a quiet bunch right now. It's been a long day already. Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, CAO. Is there any other items that you'd like to highlight there, or just as presented? Okay, thank you. We have no communications today, but we do at number 7 have a motion, and I'm going to go over to our director from West Howe Sound to speak to this, please.
It's great to have another person stepping forward with the ABC and bringing our numbers up. So, yeah, I'd like you to support.
Okay. Any comments from staff on this? No. Okay. So, Director Hiltz, will you be moving that recommendation?
Yes, please.
Okay, and may I have a seconder? Thank you. All those in favor? Question. Oh, sorry, question? Certainly. Director Beamish.
Somebody clarify what...
Director Hiltz, can you turn off your mic?
Clarify what the 2-year term is? Is it, I mean, as a resolution, it could be made any time. When's the 2-year term expire? The end of this year, the end of next year, January or July?
I'll take that over to staff, please.
It would be the term expiring at the end of January 2021.
2021? Thank you. For clarification, should that be in the resolution?
Sure, it can be. Yeah.
Would you like to amend that so it's actually in the resolution?
Sure.
Okay, so amend it for the remainder of the 2-year term to end in January 2021?
Yes,
okay.
Please.
Okay, and a seconder for that amendment? Seconded. Any debate on the amendment? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? Those opposed? Okay, the amendment carries. So the amended motion is that Gretchen Bozak be appointed to the West Howe Sound Area F Advisory Planning Commission for the remainder of the 2-year term ending in January 2021. So seeing no more debate on that, I'll call the question on that amended motion. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So moving on, we have no bylaws today. I think we took care of them all last week. We had a few. So we'll move on to our director's reports. And I have my list here. And we're going to start with Director Ties in Roberts Creek, please.
Thank you, Chair Pat. Well, it's only been about a week since our last director's report, so not too much to report. I was at the Resilient Neighborhoods party in Roberts Creek at the Gumboot Cafe on Friday, and it was nice to see a pretty good turnout there, about 30 or so people. And looking at our report this morning about emergency preparedness, the Resilient Neighborhood Program is a great way to have that. And one of the leaders in that area to look at is the Woodcreek Park neighborhood in the Area E. They're doing a really fine job of creating community, and it's good to see those kind of initiatives happening, and I think it'd be great for us as directors to promote this kind of program, and there is some funding that they are able to give to people who want to be the leaders in these resilient neighborhood initiatives. So that's, I think, the big gist of it, and I'll move on from there.
Thank you, Director Ties. Over next, we'll go over to Sechelt and talk to Director Seegers.
Thank you. Can't believe it's only been a week. It's our last board meeting. I've been meeting with a few developers, moving a few things forward. One, actually, that we'll be working in partnership with the Shishalt Nation on. Blue Ocean is looking to move forward on the hotel development. And inside the foundation agreement, the 1 hectare piece inside the golf course is being made available to the Shishalt Nation. So we'll be working with them to move that forward. What else is happening? We had 100 Women Who Care on Monday night. So if you don't know about that, check us out. We do about a 45-minute meeting and we give out money. We do it 4 times a year. Last recipient was the YMCA for their camp program, their summer camp program, and we gave them $4,800. And we gave $3,300 on Monday night, and there'll be more coming in over the next while. And this went to the Gibson's Marine Education Center Society. So basically what it is we have 3 charities that come, randomly selected. They come and present for 5 minutes. We vote on who we want to give the money to, and we all write a check out for $100. If they can't make it, they send the money ahead of time or slightly after. I've got emails, e-transfers coming in now. And, I mean, it's really quick. It's easy. We learn about other charities in the community, and it's very easy to do. So if you know others, let them know. Something else, the District of Shishalt is changing who's providing our benefits. So we are moving over from Manulife to Desjardins. So we've been doing orientations on that. And then with Chair Pratt and Director McMahon, I attended Persephone Brewing last evening. And we got to spend a little bit of time with Jen Vervier, who is out here from New Belgium Brewing. Is that what they're called? New Belgium Brewing. As you may know, Persephone is looking for a CAO to take them to CEO, to take them to the next level. And Jen has been expressed interest. She grew New Belgium from 10 million in revenue to 100 million in revenue. So there's conversations going on there. But this was an opportunity for the community to engage with her and ask questions about, sustainability, et cetera. So it was a nice evening. What else? Then yesterday I attended, I had a number of meetings around the office, but then I attended a session with, they call themselves Community Resource Lab leadership team. So this is a group looking to bring together a co-location space for a number of bodies on the Sunshine Coast, and they're pursuing a few different options. So this was just a check-in with them. Committee on the Whole yesterday, Evolve, the development along Field Road, came forward for permission to move forward to first reading. So that will be moving forward. That is a 30-acre property. It'll be about 9,000 square feet of commercial space. The rest is residential. They're also looking at working with BC Housing and the Affordable Housing Society on the Sunshine Coast to put some affordable housing, workforce housing, basically, in there as well. So that will be moving forward. I think that's it for now. Thank you.
That's a lot in a week.
That's not
I know, that's only a snippet. Next, Director Julius, please.
Sorry, Madam Chair. No report from me.
Thank you. Director Lee.
I like Keith's report the best. We had a short-term rental presentation last night at Madeira Music School, and it was quite informative, actually. I sat and listened, and I learned quite a lot. It was quite different because the members of the audience answered each other's questions, which was kind of cool. It was a great discussion. It was friendly, but it was very frank. Everybody's views was heard, which I really liked, and it was done in a non-confrontational and actually quite respectful manner. It was a good meeting. The one thing I thought that could be handled a little bit better with some of these is the why question right at the beginning. In other words, why the bylaw? Why are we doing this, rather than just launch right into the technical? Like, should a person be within 20 kilometers of where the house is? When in fact, I believe the why was answered quite good once the audience asked the question. And I liked it, and it was made clear that it wasn't part of the affordable housing issue. It was to resolve the short-term rental issue, and it was great. Andrew actually was there and did a great job of handling that. I really appreciated it. And then we move on to the APC. I don't know if everybody knows Alan Skelly, but he's going to remain as chair of our APC. Very competent person, great chair. But Peter Robson's going to take over as vice chair now, another good candidate. You might know him because he writes for some of the publications. And what I particularly enjoy about our APC is that they invite me to the site visits when they go, so I get to go and look at the situation firsthand when there's variances coming, and it works really good. So anyways, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lee. We'll move on over across the table over to the town of Gibson's, and Director Beamish, please.
Thank you, Chair. The town of Gibson's picked up an award last week for Open for Business, which was nice to go over to Vancouver, and went over there with our administrator and Councillor Ladwig and the executive director for the chamber, and we had a very nice dinner, and we were successfully won the award, and it was a very nice evening. And Friday last week, I met with 2 prospective investors on the coast under the PMP program. So they're still coming. There's still interest in that program, so that we'll see what comes of that. At council, we appointed a policing committee, and that's a committee that we're going to have to look at the impacts of achieving 5,000 population and what the costs of those are going to, what the options are to the town and what the costs, so that we've asked that committee to have an interim report around June and a final report in November. And is also to look at how policing in Gibson's can be improved even today under current circumstance. We appointed our 2 students, Sasha Stipik, or I think it's pronounced Stipik actually, and Jason Lewis, to council. And one of them will sit at the council table, and they've also been invited, if they so wish, to come to committee meetings, they are held in the afternoon, but if they're able to get away, if there's issues on there. So the whole idea of that is to get a youth perspective on decisions that council makes and into the discussion with council. And I don't think either of the students will be reluctant to speak at council. I'm looking forward to that. Earlier this week, Monday, I attended the Scredo AGM in Sechelt, and that was very good, and had lots of information there about the Scredo program. I learned quite a bit actually about the program. It was good to attend that. And I think that last week, no, the week before we appointed the students, my dates, that we met with Pam Goldsmith-Jones and MLA by phone, and Director Seegers and Chair Pratt were both participants, and the students were there as well. And it was very good to have them integrated into conversations at the political level at that. So it was very good. So and that's about it, apart from our own council meeting and committee meetings and budget meetings and strategic planning meetings. And so there's a continual activity. But, you know, it's becoming more routine. There's not as many orientation meetings. There's not as many meetings as to thinking about what we do and things. So we're starting to fall into a routine of regular meetings. So it's starting to plan a little bit in that regard, to have a life outside of meetings. Thank you.
There's a life outside meetings? What? We'll go to the other part of Howe Sound, and Director Hiltz from Area F, please.
The other part of Howe Sound, yes. Yes. the fun side of Housetown, right. Thank you very much, Chair. I'm going to echo Chair Director Beamish, is that we are kind of, the orientation is kind of falling to the side, and all the bits are sort of falling in place, and that bit for West Housetown was the Advisory Planning Commission, which hadn't met since September, and met this week. And I'm going to draw one, it's a great group of people, lots of depth of experience going back, people who were born on the coast. And one particular person, Kate Louise Stanford, who is the Islands trustee, is a member of the APC. She lives on Gambier Island, so I think this is a first to have someone from Gambier Island on, even though Gambier Island is not part of the planning function. It's a way to check in, and it's going to be an interesting relationship. I'm really looking forward to that. The other part of the APC was the orientation that we had here on Monday evening with staff, and this room was full of the new people, and excellent questions from people, and talk about an engaged group of citizens. Like, I'm really amazed at the depth of how people want to participate in the community. Yes, there is confusion over what happens, but there is just this want to participate. So I'm really excited to see that. What else? I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Hiltz. We'll continue to Seashelt, and our other Seashelt director, our alternate Director Toth.
Thank you. Attended the Seashelt Library Board AGM on Saturday. It was short and sweet, and there was only one person in the audience. Susan Eggerman is the new chair for the Library Board. On Tuesday, myself and Councillor McLean went on a facility tour for the District of Seashelt. We toured the Public Works Yard, the airport, and the location for the proposed Ebbtide Dog Park. So it's nice to see some of those facilities on the ground firsthand. You read about them in reports, you see drawings, things like that, but it's nice, especially the Public Works Yard. I hadn't been there before, to see what staff are able to make do with what they've got there available to them. Wednesday, we had a committee of the whole meeting, and we were deliberating on our capital projects. Matt did a great job of chairing that meeting. And then the only other thing, I guess, I'm chairing the SDBA AGM tonight. It's going to be at Trailway Center, and it's kind of short notice, but you're all welcome to attend. So, thank you.
Thank you, Director Toth, and good luck at your meeting tonight. Director McMahon, how are things in Elphinstone?
Thank you. Things are interesting in Elphinstone, always. I also went to the Resilient Neighborhoods get-together at the Gumboot Cafe, and was pleased and even a little surprised to see how many Area E residents were there. The Fircrest Road people were there, and I think that is one of the most amazing little enclaves. They have their own book club for the street, which awesome. And of course the Wood Creek Park people were there. There's nothing like sharing a failing sewer system to promote togetherness. On the weekend, I got my newsletter out. On Monday, we went to the Flynn Row presentation, which was interesting. Also the Scredo presentation and the APC orientation. And on Tuesday, I attended the Agriculture Advisory Committee. I went to the fireside chat at Persephone. And then last night, I had the Area E APC meeting. We re-elected Mary Dagan as the chair of the APC. We have lots of new people at the table in Area E. It was a really nice evening. People were just friendly, and it was great. Thanks.
Thank you, Director McMahon. I'll finish up by just going through a few of the things that I've been doing. Many of them are overlaps with everyone else. Seashelt Library Board AGM and meeting. Lovely gluten-free cake, which was that was like a highlight of an AGM. It's gluten-free cake, and it was good. And lovely. As Ann Hopkins is retiring from the chairship of the Seashelt Library Board. And the 25th was a very busy day between the Flinrod meeting and then the Scredo presentation, APC orientation, and then I capped off the night with at a constituency. It felt like a constituency meeting. It was actually at a house concert in Half Moon Bay, and where the residents they were hosting an Australian musician, a couple of Australian musicians, and had invited members within their neighborhood to come and visit. And so it was an intimate concert experience for about 40 people, all of them Area B residents. So I answered a lot of questions, which was great. I attended the fireside chat up at Persephone, which was really interesting. Great dialogue, really nice vibe up there. And then yesterday, I was the cheering section in the audience when our CFO presented the budget to the District of Sechelt. I tried not to be too much of a disruptor, but I'd just like to commend our CFO, and she's got a great presentation. She answers all the questions very well, enough that I don't think they asked any questions, which was great. And so thank you so much for taking care of that for us. And it's great to see you in action. So thank you. And a couple of comments. Interestingly enough, we do have a lot of residents that are actually reading or listening back on these audio recordings. So I'm getting a couple of comments to please make sure everybody turns on their microphone, speaks into the microphone, because some pieces can be hard to hear. And I see the media probably nodding along as well, because sometimes when they need to go back and fact check and make sure that they've heard something. So just something to keep in mind. Make sure you're turning your microphone on, you're speaking into it, and try not to speak too fast. And it's very much appreciated within the community that we have those audio recordings there. So with that, that's our director's reports. The next item we have on our agenda are a couple of new business items. We'll start with the drought management plan, and I'm going to go over to Director McMahon to introduce this, please.
Thank you, she said, turning on her mic. I just wanted to raise this as a topic for discussion, because I do understand that there are limits to staff resources, but as I understand it, we're not going to be looking at this until perhaps April. And I'm really, number one, there's the timeline. When are we going to look at it? Given what's happened the last few years, we could, in fact, have an early season drought. But the other thing that we should discuss a little, I think, is the process for engaging the community in the stages of water restrictions and talking about water in general and what the SCRD is planning. We've talked a bit about setting up a water, either a committee or holding a weekend engagement where we would bring all the stakeholders to the table and talk water. And I just wanted to get it out there to do some thinking about how we would do this and when we would do this.
Okay, I'm going to go over to staff, please.
Thank you, Chair Pratt. So as GM Rosenblum referenced at last week's Infrastructure Services Committee meeting during the presentation, that it's actually March the 21st. Infrastructure is when the drought management plan would come forward. And what staff normally do is they sort of bring forward a lessons learned, comments and things that they've heard from the public, and then any particular amendments that staff might be making to the drought management plan itself. That also incorporates some sections on the engagement in terms of things. If the committee wishes to make other further amendments and send that back to staff, they're happy to do that then in March. And so when the April date was out there, that is when we look to formally adopt it. There is obviously a link in the process if the board wishes to change any fees or anything related, and that's a bylaw process. So there's a process to amend the policy, and then if there is required, a process to amend the bylaw. So the board will be seeing it in March in terms of things. And that would be a great opportunity when the staff are there talking about what other engagement opportunities the board would like to see in terms of things.
Thank you. Director Seegers.
Thank you. I think what I'm hearing in the community is that in future, March is too late. We have people in the community who make their living on planting, and to determine in March what's going to happen basically has wiped out their year. So if we're looking at doing a drought management plan and any kinds of changes to that, they almost need to have them done in December so that when they start doing their planting in January, February, they know what they're going to plant and how they're going to plant to respond to whatever the drought situations are going to be during that year. It's our livelihood. So I think it's more timing that is a concern for me. And so it's too late, obviously, for this year, but that's something we can discuss when that comes forward.
CEO Loveys.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And obviously, our General Manager of Infrastructure Services would be the better expert here in terms of things. I can report that the weir and the lake is still covered with snow up there, and so part of this is also the conditions that go into it. That is an annual process. So more opportunity in March to talk about the timing of this and when we have the staff here to do that.
Director Beamish.
I'd like to speak in the broader sense of water. We're moving forward in terms of water planning for the regional district. But we don't seem to be involving the community in that process yet. And I'd like to find a way that we can bring them in, not to inform them of decisions that we made, but to help us make better decisions. And there's a lot of ideas out there. There's a lot of comment out there. And I think that I would like to see, and maybe the timing is going to be April after we've had the intergovernmental meeting, because water's on that, after we've been to the water workshop, maybe look at some resources and bring people together to talk about water. And, I think we've had opportunities. I think, remind me, there was a water, you were talking this morning.
The 2006 Water Summit that was up in the Pender Harbor area, Michael Jackson and the group put that together, and there's a number of SCRD people as well.
Yeah, building on that sort of thing, a water summit, maybe that's what we need to have. Maybe that's what we need to call it, a second water summit, where we talk about water, all of the issues of water and the plans that we have, and look and see what the ground proofer, with people who know the area, and how does this work? Are there other things we should be thinking about? Because going forward, it's so important. It's not just important to us. It's important to everybody in the region. And I think that there are some very competent people out there. The Conservation Association, there's some people there. There's other people who have knowledge, who have experience, and we need to engage them, and we need to bring them to the table in order for us to make good decisions. So looking for that opportunity, I'd look for the board's support to maybe move forward in that direction.
Director Seegers.
Thank you. I think that's one of the agenda items at the intergovernmental meeting when we have everybody at the table. So potentially coming out of that meeting, I would like to see something come forward from that. So that's a conversation where we've got everybody at the table and we can move something forward as a region.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned after the intergovernmental, after the water workshop, and then we start to form some ideas.
Yes. Thank you.
Director McMahon, would you like to close out anything there?
No, I just think that's good, and I like the idea of a water summit. I think that's what people are looking for.
Okay, and anything from staff?
No, so two things are happening concurrently, but yeah, that's great. Yep, I understand.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next item under new business is DL 1313. Director McMahon, over to you again, please.
Okay, and part of this is that I haven't been able to find some documents I was looking for, but back in December, we moved the SCRD right to the Premier and Cabinet, requesting an immediate Cabinet order be issued to suspend the auction of the timber license for Block 1313. I just wanted to confirm that we did that because I am confused as to where we are in the process at the moment. We also agreed to contact the minister and set up a meeting, and that has been, we've been pursuing that, although we haven't exactly succeeded. So I would like to look at where we are and what our next steps are at this point. It's been over 2 months, and I don't see that we've made any progress. And it's particularly frustrating on the Block 1313 front because Flynn Roe keeps writing us back and talking about the Sechelt Foundation Agreement, which is nice, but this is Squamish territory. So I don't feel like we're making a lot of progress. And I wanted to put it out there and discuss what our next steps should be.
Okay, so we've got it out there. We have sent the letter off. The reply that we received was that we could be expecting a reply back from Minister Donaldson at some point that we haven't received. And then the second part of the letter was that we would be setting up to contact the South Coast branch of Flynn Rod, which is the meeting that we had earlier this week, the workshop around land use planning. But as of yet, we have not yet received a reply back from Minister Donaldson. So that's the status right now. So I'm going to, Director Beamish, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was just going to say that I think at one point in time, I believe we passed a resolution authorizing you and Director McMahon to go to Victoria, and that if that can't be done, Minister Donaldson's going to be at the Kofi conference, and maybe that's a chance to say, hey, we're here, we'd like to meet. If you don't have anything ahead of time, so I think that, or just say, we're here for our meeting.
Okay. And we've authorized that I'll be going there on behalf of the board in April. It's their I'll look to the will of the board if you want to pursue this with a secondary letter. Look to staff for advice from what's happened or from past experience or suggestions, please.
Well, thank you, Chair Pratt. So the only thing I would add is that staff have heard from BC Timber Sales that they are also on hold with respect to District Lot 1313, and they are awaiting the Minister's decision on this as well.
So we've been waiting. We could send a follow-up letter, asking for a response. We were significantly far enough beyond when we've received the first reply because it was it was just before Christmas, I believe. I can't remember the exact date, but I think it was December 21st-ish, around that last week before Christmas. And so one thing we could do is we could send a follow-up letter as well as phone calls, can continue along that route and see if we can move something forward. I'll look to the will of the board, what you want to do. Director Hiltz.
A question for staff. Is it a verbal that we've received about BC Timber Sales waiting a decision, or is that in writing?
Staff?
It was a little bit of both. They were following up on the past recommendation with respect to having a meeting with the Area E APC, which was a past resolution, and so they did indicate in an email to staff that they were also awaiting the same minister's letter. So it was a little bit of both.
Director McMahon.
Well, I don't see that it could hurt to send a reminder. It has been over 2 months. It's a little frustrating that we have not had a conversation about this, about the specifics. Every time we talk to FLNRO, we get into a very general discussion of what their policy is on land use planning, but we don't get down to the specific situations that we're dealing with here. So I would make a motion to send a reminder letter to the minister.
And seconded. Any speakers to that? Director Ties?
I'm just wondering if you want to poke that stick in the hornet's nest. Well, I'm just saying, right now, while we're waiting, what we're actually desiring is happening. My question is why do we want to have that response now that might not be in our favor?
I've got a little bit of a speakers list. Director Julius, did you want to speak as well to this, or?
Just a question. So if we don't get support, what is plan B, C, and D going to be?
It's a good question. If we don't get support from the minister, you mean? Yeah. That is a good question. All we can do is we can ask. This is one of those areas that we only hopeful that we have influence on. We can't change a minister's mandate. I have Director Beamish and then Director Seegers.
I guess this sending mail has been going back and forth for years on this issue. And this is just another letter we're going to send. I really do think that engaging the MLA in it, I think, is important. I just think you need to either go to Victoria or set up a meeting with him in Vancouver when he's there and have that discussion, because it's an easy one for people to avoid if nobody's pushing the issue. And to not push it is simply to delay an outcome. It's going to be the same outcome either way, and so that people need to understand and know what's happening. So that I would encourage that we've done all the easy things, and the hard thing is to go there and ask the questions. Otherwise, we're waiting until UBCM, which is months away. So it has to be done.
Director Seegers.
Thank you. Staff has indicated that we've heard that this is going to be delayed or it's on hold or whatever. Do we have that in writing? And where did that come from? And how do we get that in writing?
Over to staff.
So we heard from BC Timber Sales, so you might have remembered some of the supervisors that have been here in the past, and they're the ones that would be leading the BC Timber Sales operating plan, so it was from them. And the only other added comment is during the Monday webinar, the staff at the ministry had shared that they know that the letter is prepared. It just hasn't been sent yet. So that's all we have in terms of an update.
Director McMahon.
I am entirely in favor of going to Victoria if that would be the more beneficial way of doing things. I'm just going to point out, though, that the residents directly adjacent to Block 1313 have been in a state of insecurity and anxiety over this since 2013. And I think they would really like to see some kind of a resolution. Either way. Well, I know what they're going to do if it goes one way, but Yes.
Okay, Director Lee.
There's probably a reason that the letter hasn't been written yet, and it's probably a matter of timing. And I guess we can all speculate why it hasn't been written, but I do note that there is a conference coming up that you will be attending. Perhaps that's something that might happen after that conference, and if you did get the opportunity to discuss it with the minister at that time, I think that would be quite a powerful step, and you might actually get an answer at that time. So that's my thoughts on it.
Okay. Do we have anyone else on the speakers list? Because we do have a motion on the floor to write a reminder letter asking for a response. Are there any other comments to that, either from directors, from staff? Director McMahon.
We could add a little update. The Russell Road washout that occurred, that's directly below Block 1313. Just to highlight the existing stormwater issues in that area.
That's so noted for the contents of the letter. If this motion passes, that'll be one of the things that are addressed in the letter. Okay. Any other comments, staff? No? Okay. Directors? Okay. Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. Would anybody like the motion reread? Or everybody's clear? Would you please, Sherry?
That a reminder letter be sent to the Minister of Forest Lands, Natural Resources and Rural Development requesting the Minister's response to the status of District Lot 1313, and that the letter include the Russell Road washout event.
Okay. Everyone's clear on what we're voting on? Oh, sorry, Director Beamish.
I might just suggest an amendment to that, and that is to add to it, and that a request be made to meet with the minister in Vancouver on February the 4th or 5th, during the.
You mean April?
Sorry, April. During the conference, so that you can at least get that going. The date is. There is a preliminary agenda out that shows when he's there. He may be there for the whole thing, but he is speaking at one time.
Okay, so Director Beamish has suggested an amendment and seconded. Sherry, if you could read that amendment first, please, before we vote on that.
That a request be made to meet with the minister during the, I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the conference, COFI? Okay. So during the Council of Forest Industries conference in April.
Okay. So that's the amendment that's on the floor to the motion. Would anybody else like to speak to that? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So we now have an amended motion that we send a reminder letter to the minister, as well as that a meeting be requested for during the COFI, C-O-F-I, conference in April 2019. Are there any more speakers to this issue? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Would you like that noted? No. Okay. All right. Motion carries. Amended motion carries. Sorry. Okay. And was that all for DL 1313? Okay. We do have an in-camera agenda, and so we're going to move that the public be excluded from attendance at the meeting in accordance with Section 91A, C, and K of the Community Charter. Personal information about an identifiable individual, labor relations or other employee relations, and negotiations and related discussion respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service. May I have a mover, please? And seconder? All those in favor? Okay, thank you. That carries. So prior to us moving into that closed item, I'll go to